I'd like to thank Deputy Smith for the extra 3 minutes and 43 seconds. Thank you very much.
I hope you don't talk, Taki.
Thanks very much. Well, the government trumpeted the budget as awarding €5 a week to people on social welfare. The princely sum of €5 a week, and you have to wait till March, by the way, to get it. However, Social Justice Ireland's verdict on the budget was that it, quote, lacked any serious initiatives to begin to significantly reduce poverty, and furthermore, that, quote, the government's choices and priorities have given least to single welfare-dependent households and those on the lowest earnings. Nobody's going to get too excited about a fiver, but when you put it in the context of the scale of poverty and inequality in this country, it is even less impressive. So, some information about the scale of poverty and inequality. 780,000 people are poor, including 250,000 children. That is 1 in 6 of the population, and almost 1 in 5 children. Nearly half of those are living in consistent poverty, 8.3%. 100,000 of those at risk of poverty are workers with jobs. 1 in 5 workers are on low pay. Students, mainly young people, have nearly twice the risk of poverty of the general population, 30% as opposed to 16.5%. Disgracefully, 39% of people with disabilities are poor. The latest available figures for 2016 show rents so out of control that 14.3% of private sector renters paying market rents are living in consistent poverty. This is a massive increase compared to 2011, when 6.8% of private renters were in consistent poverty. Those are 2016 figures. It must be even higher now, I suspect. 22% of people renting below market rate or rent-free, in other words, mainly people paying differential rents in council housing or HAP, are living in consistent poverty, showing the failure of the government's social housing and social welfare policies. 42% of unemployed people are living below the poverty line. An extra €5 a week will do little to change this, especially for the under-25s, who continue to be discriminated against. From March, they will still be getting only €112.70 a week in job seekers allowance. Social Justice Ireland has been calling for social welfare payments to be benchmarked against average incomes. There has been no attempt to match social welfare increases, even to the small rises in wages, let alone the massive increases in rent, profits and wealth. I want to focus in on this a little bit. For someone on job seekers benefit, a €5 extra a week is a 2.5% increase from €198 a week to €203. For an under 25-year-old on job seekers allowance, it's a 4.6% increase. Now, compare that to the following. To match the increase in rents in the last year, according to the latest DAFT report, social welfare payments would have had to increase by €31 a week. I'm going to read that again. To match the increase in rents in the last year, social welfare payments would have had to increase by €31 a week, or 11.3%. To match the 9.2% rate of annual increase just in profits on rent of dwellings, that's according to the latest figures from the Central Statistics Office, job seekers benefit would have had to increase by €18.20. Corporate trading profits increased 9.7% from €87 billion in 2016 to €95 billion in 2017, over €9 billion more than all the wages and employer social insurance contributions paid for all workers. The amount of profits declared here have more than doubled since 2010, when it was €41 billion. If the same had happened with social welfare rates, job seekers' benefit would now be €454 a week. Household wealth increased by 9.2%, or €62 billion, between Q1 2017 and Q1 2018. That's according to the latest figures from the Central Bank. According to the Credit Suisse Annual Global Wealth Report for 2018, Ireland had the fourth biggest percentage wealth increase out of 52 countries, with 118,486 dollar millionaires, 15,000 more than in 2015, including 14,353 people worth over €5 million. According to the Central Statistics Office Household Wealth and Consumption Survey 2013, published in 2015, the first and only in-depth analysis of the distribution of household wealth, the top 1% of households owned 15% of net wealth. The top 5% had 38%. The top 10% had 54%. The top 20% had 73%, while the bottom 20% of households owe more than they own, and the bottom 70% owned only 15.4% of the wealth. That is the scale of inequality and social injustice in Leo Varadkar's Ireland. Now, the failure to increase social welfare rates anywhere near close to as much as wealth and profits and rent reproduce at the level of the state how the profit share is rising at the expense of the wage share. Workers are being more and more exploited in the workplace, receiving less and less of the value of the goods and services they produce, with only relatively small wage increases, while profits skyrocket. Simultaneously, capitalists, especially bankers, corporate landlords and developers, are doubly exploiting workers and the unemployed by using their accumulated profits to invest in the housing market. This is driving up house prices and rents and transferring more and more wealth from workers' pockets to wealthy people's bank accounts. So the government can dance a jig, rub their hands and say, aren't we the grand crew? We're increasing the social welfare payments by €5 per week. As I say, people on social welfare will have to wait until next March. But you put it in the context of the massive profits, the massive rent roll, and the massive increase in the wealth of the people at the top of Irish society, you can see that in reality, this is a mere pittance, a drop in the bucket.